What's going on there, BCVC? Philly Vapors, Unity Vapors, anywhere else that this video happens to make it to you as well. As you may know or may not, I attended the SFATA Fly-In conference at Washington, D.C. This last Tuesday and Wednesday. And, you know, obviously, I'm a vape shop owner, so I have privy information as to what goes on and do a lot of advocacy work for the vaping industry. And I know that it's frustrating for you as consumers not really knowing what is going on the the Senate level through legislature, whether it be federal or whether it be on our state level. And you know, my goal with these videos is basically just to fill you in on what I do, what I experience, kind of, you know, so you can kind of be there. I wish I could strap a little GoPro to my shoulder, and that way you could get a full view of what's going on. Unfortunately, the White House and the Capitol Hill and all those crazy things, they don't really let you have GoPros on your shoulder, so that's not going to happen. But what I can do is I can kind of go through what my experience was, what I thought had happened, if we made a difference, and you know, of course, anything in the future that we can do or things that you can do. So I arrived at Washington, D.C. with my operations manager, Rebecca Rush. I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures on there. And we arrived at the Capitol Hill Club about 8:30 in the morning, very early. And it's basically a very high-end restaurant for Republicans. It's where a lot of the Republicans have their, you know, their breakfast before they end up hitting the Hill. So we ended up having lunch there, or I'm sorry, not lunch, breakfast. We had breakfast there, and really just had breakfast. Wasn't very exciting. Actually was bad for me because I ate some stuff I shouldn't have and troubled me through the whole day, but I know you don't want to hear about that. So, all right, so after that, we ended up heading over to the Hill, to Capitol Hill, and met with some of our representatives. Some of the representatives we did talk with through Pennsylvania were Robert Casey, Joe Pitts, Tom Moreno. They were some of the offices that we were able to hit. Obviously, you don't get to speak to those individually. You get to talk to their aides. And a lot of times, to be honest, their aides are 20, 21, 24. I mean, they're very young. And you're wondering if I'm even, you know, if I'm telling you this, are you even listening? Are you going to even relay this information, you know, to the senator? And you know, that's one of the things that's always in the back of your mind. But they do, you know, they do listen. They do seem like they care. Obviously, you know, they're paid to seem like they care. They may just be saying what they got to say to shut us up, you know, to get us out of there, because they are forced to listen. But in the end, I mean, it's either we do that and we hope they listen, or we do nothing, and obviously no one's going to listen if you're doing nothing. So that's why we go and try and you know, try and raise awareness, raise education, answer questions that they may have, because there's still a lot of questions in Washington about what vaping is. And we bring out these large devices and they have no idea. I mean, they only know them little cigalikes. They really don't know. So anytime we can educate, it's always good. Plus, with the media spewing out so much bull crap, you know, and a lot of times that's the headlines that they're reading. And then therefore, our first questions usually from them are, you know, child safety. A child drank a bottle and died. You know, do you have child-proof caps? And I hear that there's formaldehyde in e-cigarettes. And the reason why is because usually you get this big story, like we'll use the formaldehyde issue. So there's this big story of formaldehydes in e-cigarettes. So everyone in the country reads that. They tell us we're not supposed to vape because there's formaldehyde. Now, there was a lot of rebuttal stories that come out calling that study complete bullshit. But no one read that report, of course, because that didn't make the headlines. So you have a lot of that misconception and miscommunication going on, especially on the you know, the Washington, D.C. federal level. So again, that's one of the reasons why we were there. So we'd also hit a few of the senators from New Jersey. We'd also hit North Carolina, which was very ironic because when we walked in, we're basically like, don't say anything about big tobacco, because we're in North Carolina. I mean, they literally have tobacco leaves hanging on the walls. Turns out that they're completely pro-vaping. So you just never know what's going to end up happening when you walk through the room into a senator. So it's basically who we talk to. Now, I'm not sure if you can really understand the way it works. Now, it's you have a lobbyist. Now, we are a part of SFATA. That's why we had gone down there. Now, SFATA is the Smoke-Free Advocates Trade Association. And it's a lot like CASA. CASA is more for consumers. It's more for you. Whereas SFATA is more for vape shop owners and for the vape shop industry, which in the end becomes a very powerful thing, because although they care about you as a voter, they really don't want to put 35,000 vape shops out of business and lose all that business and unemployment and sales tax and state taxes. And there's so many taxes that are involved with shutting down 35,000 businesses that they really listen. Small business is usually one of the little things that they're always in the back of their mind thinking about. So you as a consumer, you definitely matter, but they are definitely looking into what small business has, and that's one of the reasons why we're there. So we're there with SFATA. I was there with Chris Hughes from Fat Cat Vapor Shop, Brittany Cushman she was actually from a tobacco company who also sold vaping things, but was there lobbying for vaping. There was also Paul Pataniak from 710 Vapor, and Mark Anton. I'm not really sure where he's from. I know he's in New Jersey, and he's more of an e-cigarette manufacturer rather than like a vape shop owner. And there was a few other people in and out, obviously, but we basically have a lobbyist, and we literally run from meeting to meeting. There's a strict schedule. You only have about 15 to 20 minutes to talk to the aides from the senators. So you're literally running from one side of Capitol Hill to the other. And sometimes you're taking a cab, sometimes you're walking up flights of stairs, down flights of stairs, up elevators, down, and everything is always rush, 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 rush. So it's a very weird day, and it's very fast-paced. They actually have a basement in Capitol Hill that connects all of the buildings, and the basement's so large that it actually has a Subway, it has a Verizon store, a post office, cafeterias. I mean, I can't explain how large it is. And when you get into the buildings, it's mostly just long hallways of endless doors, one after the other. And then you finally get to the end of the hallway, you turn the corner, and what is it? A whole nother long hallway of doors for 4, 5, 6 levels all the way. I mean, it's ridiculous. And without a lobbyist, you would never find your way around. You would never be able to get there. And that's basically what a lobbyist does. They're basically hired by SFATA or whoever, and you're basically paying for their connections and their ability to get you to talk with your senators and things like that on Capitol Hill. So that's a basic rundown of what we had done. Now, for our lunch was actually a nice treat this time. We had been invited by AEI, the American Enterprise Institute, and that was run by Sally Sattel. The nice thing about it was we had, that we don't butcher his name, Igor Burstin from Drexel University. And he's a professor / doctor / scientist kind of guy. I mean, he's very, very well knowledgeable. He seemed a lot like, he knew a lot like Dr. Farsalitos, if you're familiar with Dr. Farsalitos. Carl Phillips from CASA, Carl V. I'm sure if you know anything about CASA, you've seen Carl V. He's on a lot of magazines and things like that. So he's one of the heads of CASA, and he was there to speak, as well as Gregory Connolly from the American Vaping Association. And I'm not sure if you know Gregory, but he does a lot for the industry, and he's a really great guy, and he helps us out in Pennsylvania quite a lot. So definitely look forward to picking his brain and being able to talk to him. So this little seminar was basically, it was Thank You for Vaping, the State of Science on E-Cigarettes. And each of the guests had gone up and talked, and Greg Connolly more talked about the advancement of what it was like multiple years ago to what it is now, how the devices have advanced. And you know, Igor was really one of the most things that I was looking for. Was he had a lot of the science things down, and for the most part, he was talking about how, like when you breathe out the vapor, it's very comparable to fresh air, and not like cigarettes where you're getting all these toxic chemicals that are coming out. And the main thing that I took away from this was a lot of the senators and legislators and aides were all invited to this as well. And you know, they were able to ask questions and kind of get a full view of what e-cigarettes are and the science and how it's not what they think it is, and not being told from us, who they always think everyone has an agenda. Well, when you're attending something like this, you realize that there's no agenda. It's just we're just trying to educate. So that was a nice thing as well to take part in. For the most part, what we talked about was there's a bill that's trying to be passed. It's called the Nelson something bill, but we're calling it the Nelson bill. And basically, everyone's on board, whether it be Big Tobacco, Altria, everyone from vaping. We're all on board with this actual piece of legislature. And what it says is basically that we all want child-proof caps. We all want warnings on the bottles, you know, just simple things like that. And we're all on board with that, obviously. It makes the most sense. We don't want these products getting into the hands of children, obviously. It makes the most amount of sense. So that's for the most part what we had talked about, as well as the FDA deeming regulations, which I'm sure is what everyone has their eyes on. And if you're not familiar with the FDA deeming regulations, if they go through as they're supposed to, vaping will be dead. Vaping will be gone. Big Tobacco basically wants to, you know, have us be dead and not a threat whatsoever. And the main reason why is the FDA had said that their deeming regulations should go back to 2007 when the Tobacco Control Act was put in. And what it basically meant was any product after 2007 that the tobacco industry was going to put forth had to undergo rigorous testing. Probably cost between $2 and $10 million per item. So if you come out with 2 cigarettes, it's going to be $2 to $10 million per style of cigarette. And then it goes to undergo examination and things like that. And they don't even have to approve you. So they're trying to classify us the same way. So any product that had come out before 2007, which if you're in vaping, and you know that there wasn't anything in 2007. So anything that come out after 2007 is going to require that same process. So if I have one of our flavors, let's call it Silly Wabbit, at 6 milligrams of nicotine, that's going to cost between $2 and $10 million for me to get it on the market. And then if I change it to 3 milligram, well, guess what? Another $2 to $10 million for every product, every variation of vaping. As you can see, I wouldn't be able to be a player, and pretty much no one would. It would just end up costing a fortune to stay in business. So basically, this industry that we've created to get away from Big Tobacco would be handed back to the people who have the money to do that, and that is Big Tobacco, who would like nothing more than to crush us and stop innovation, which is really the great thing about what we're doing here. We're innovating. You know, all this crazy product comes from innovation, and without the ability to innovate, it's just going to die off. And you know, do you really think that Big Tobacco is going to innovate? They're not going to. They're going to sell their little cheap things, and that'll be the end. So that's the real problem with the FDA deeming regulation. So obviously we're trying to get that muted, squashed. At a bare minimum, we're trying to get that grandfather date of 2007 at least raised to like 2009, 2010, or even now, to kind of, it's a Band-Aid, it's a patch, to just try and push back a little bit and give us a little bit of leeway till we can figure out what's going on. Now, the FDA did say that the deeming regulations are supposed to be coming out sometime around June, which everyone pretty much feels that there's no way that they're going to have it out by June. So more than likely sometime, you know, the end of the year is about when those deeming regulations are supposed to come out. No guarantees on when they actually do come out. They've been saying this stuff for quite a while, and you know, obviously they're being attacked pretty much by everyone, so they want to make sure their shit's spot on before they, you know, come out with these deeming regulations and put 35,000 vape shop owners out of business, as well as all of the employees that work for the vape shops. So we had also talked to the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Now, they're mostly responsible for nude legislation. And the reason why nude legislation is so important is we don't want to be classified as a drug delivery device, a medical device, or a tobacco device, because we're not any of those. We are our own industry. We've created our own industry. Look at it this way. You got your cell phone, you got your computer. All of a sudden, Apple comes out with a tablet. The tablet's not a phone. It's not a computer. It's its own brand new thing. And that's what vaping is. So why, just because we are using nicotine, does that mean that we have to be classified in a tobacco clause that was meant for big tobacco and not for us? Also, in that 2007 Tobacco Control Act, which did not come out until 2009, but it was written for 2007. E-cigarettes were on the market. They were also being seized by the FDA through Enjoy and Smoking Everywhere. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but shipments were being seized from overseas, and the FDA was seizing them, saying that there was, formaldehyde and all this shit in them, which turned out to be bogus. Turned out to be the exact same levels that were in like nicotine gum, but they made a big deal about it. And in that 2007, 2009, when it was written, Tobacco Control Act, nothing was mentioned about electronic cigarettes, nothing. So a lot of people feel as though if they do come out those FDA deeming regulations and things go sour, a lot of people, and I mean a lot, are going to sue the FDA. And we're going to force them to change their view and say, hey, listen, you didn't put e-cigarettes on this, so why are you trying to put us into it? So they're going to have to amend the Tobacco Control Act or form new legislation for us to, have our own industry and be regulated. Because I know everyone doesn't want to be regulated, but in the end, we're going to have to be regulated at least a little bit. Every industry is. So we just need to have fair regulation to where we can compete with all the other players on the field. We just want an even playing ground. It shouldn't take $50 billion to be able to run your business. So that's where that all comes in at. And of course, it's going to be a fight. It's just the way it is. The nice thing that one of the questions I had asked Gregory Connolly was, so let's say that this FDA deeming regulations goes through. And what is going to happen when that goes through? Is there like a span of time where, you can start selling, or is it like just this is the cutoff, this is the day, no more e-cigarettes, we're done? And from what he was telling me, we have about 2 years, and after 2 years, they will start finding you and fining you for not being part of the regulations. So I'm thinking we got at least 2 years, regardless. If there's lawsuits and appeals, it could be even longer. And we don't know what the regulations are going to be. They could be very strict, they could be very simple. We just don't know, unfortunately. And unfortunately, the biggest problem that I found being down there this time was a lot of the aides and a lot of the senators all felt as though we're gonna have a wait and see approach. So we're gonna wait until these FDA deeming regulations hit, and then we'll see what we have to do to take care of them. And I wish it wasn't like that, but you got to kind of see where they're at. They just they'd rather have that sit and wait approach, where we're looking for more of a proactive approach where, hey, get on board, fight this. Don't let them do this to a complete industry. And unfortunately, a lot of them had that, we're going to sit back, relax, and see what happens, and then we'll worry about it later. And unfortunately, it's bullshit, but it's what we have to deal with. But like I said, not being there, our voices aren't heard whatsoever. So it's basically what happened. Then I took a shitty subway ride back to my hotel and drove all the way back here in the same night. So it was a rough day of running around all day long, then riding the shitty ass subway, and then driving 3 hours home was a real fun day. Let me tell you how fun advocacy can be. But what we are doing for Pennsylvania is a little different than what we're doing federally through SFATA. We have organized a PA chapter of SFATA. There are currently over 30 members, looking to get more, of course. And we are currently vetting a lobbyist. We're looking for a lobbyist to represent Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania vape shop owners, where we can take them and go to Harrisburg and demolish these taxes that Wolf is trying to put through. And we won't settle for tax. We don't want any tax. There's no tax whatsoever. And this really doesn't have anything to do with me going to DC, so maybe I'll talk about this in more detail maybe next week as far as what's going on with Harrisburg, the Pennsylvania state chapter of SFATA, things like that. But just rest assured, I am working to fight for vaping and to fight bans and taxes and keep us all doing what we love, because I love what I do. I love helping people, and that's exactly what I'm doing. We're basically saving lives, and we all know it. So it's a very powerful thing, and don't give up is definitely my motto to anybody. And you too can do things. CASA puts out those call to actions. It's very simple. Go to CASA's Facebook page and like their page. They'll have the call to actions come through. When they do, you just follow the links. You enter the information they ask you to enter. It probably takes a whole 2 minutes, and you've helped. I can't stress enough how important it is to at least bare minimum do all the call to actions for Pennsylvania. If we're in Pennsylvania, it makes the most amount of sense. You have to do this stuff. You got to let them know that you mean business, and we mean business as a vaping industry. You don't want what happened in New Jersey to happen over here in Pennsylvania with that Clean Air Indoor Act, where the people can't even vape inside of a vape shop. We don't want that kind of stuff here. So there are things you can do. If you're interested in joining SFATA, go ahead and check it out. It's SFATA.org, SFATA.org. You can sign up as a group or as an individual member, and they help federally as well as locally. So some good information. If anyone has any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'll do the best I can to answer them. If there's enough questions about the same thing, I'll just do a video response. I know it's kind of long-winded and boring, but that's basically what I'm doing. The stuff that I'm doing isn't the funnest of things to do. It's a lot of computer work. It's a lot of running around. It's a lot of talking to people with suits that I just owning a vape shop. I didn't realize I was going to have to become a politician and deal with all this bullshit political crap just trying to own a vape shop. But if no one's going to stand up and take care of it, I will. So with that, I thank you for watching this video. Like I said, not very exciting. Sorry, it just is what it is. But my goal is to keep you informed, and if you are interested in trying to see what is going on in the big picture, I'm more than willing to let you know what's going on. So thank you very much, and vape on.